"You're trespassing on HOA property and I'm calling the sheriff." That's the first thing she ever said to me, standing right there at my door, clipboard in one hand, this plastic smile like she thought she owned the damn ocean. And me, I'd just spent $85,000 cash on a broken-down fishing cabin with a deed so old the ink was almost dust. 1943, the year stamped across every page. All legal, all mine. But to her, I was just an outsider, someone to run off with threats and paperwork, someone she figured would fold at the first sign of trouble. She didn't know what that old deed meant or what would happen once the feds got wind of her little operation. I remember that first morning I pulled up sea air thick with salt and rotting kelp. The cabin hunched like some shipwrecked relic wood siding, gray as driftwood tin roof. All rust and holes dock dipping into the water like a broken finger. But man, the view. You stand there with the sun just lighting up the horizon, and you feel like maybe life's giving you one last shot. Yeah, even if you got there through divorce court and a check that barely made up for 22 years. Name's Wade Harmon, 53. Carpenter by trade, retired by necessity ever since the split. My ex got the Portland house, I got some furniture and enough left over to buy that place on the Oregon coast. The listing photos looked like crime scene evidence, but something about the place hooked me. Maybe desperation, maybe hope, maybe just stubbornness. The woman who sold it, Mavis Collier, was 77 and looked every minute of it. Tired eyes, weathered hands. Her late husband's family had built the cabin in 43, and 3 generations had lived and died there. Kids raised dogs, buried tides watched. She handed me a tin box packed with deeds, hand-drawn maps, photos from a time when men wore overalls and women squinted into the sun holding babies on new porches. "This land's yours now, son," she said. And then she just drove off. First thing I did was just walk, listen to the creak of the floor, the groan of the roof, smell the must and the salt in the old wood stove that probably should have been in a museum. The place was 2 rooms and a kitchenette. No fancy finishes, just stains where pictures once hung and empty nail holes, but the bones were solid. And for the first time in months, I felt like maybe I could make something out of the mess my life had turned into. That night I sat with that tin box, pulling out deeds, reading through ink, faded thin as cobwebs. Parcel 14A, it said riparian access rights to adjacent tidelands. There was a hand-drawn map, the sort of thing you'd scribble on a napkin with a trail marked public access, and a little square labeled FAP marker 1961. I didn't know what FAP meant yet, but it sounded official, something to come back to. There were photos, too, men grinning out from a brand new dock, a woman and baby on the porch, a dog flopped in the sun. I stared at those faces, thinking what they'd say about some divorced guy patching his life together where they'd built something from nothing. I made a list that night, replace the roof, repaint the siding, fix the dock, maybe add solar if I could swing it. Called a local contractor to check the place out next week. Figured maybe for the first time in a long time, I had a plan. Next day I took a walk to the beach, no fence, no gate, just a path through the dunes. Tide was low sand, gleaming like a mirror, a couple folks fishing in the distance, gulls wheeling and crying above. For a minute I thought I'd finally found some peace. Then I noticed the cluster of white houses half a mile down a private community, all lined up in a row, white fence running the length of it. Lexus at the gate, some figure standing rigid with a clipboard. Didn't think much of it at the time. Hell, you can already see where this is going, right? That evening I sat on my porch and watched the sunset bleed gold, then purple, then darkness over the water. I thought about Mavis and her family, about starting over, about what it means to stake a claim on land nobody else seems to want. What I didn't know was that was my last quiet night for a long, long time. 3 days later, the white Lexus rolled up my driveway, and out stepped the woman with the clipboard, the one whose heels crunched gravel like they had something to prove. Blonde hair, helmeted in place, pink blazer, sharp as a razor. "Good morning," she said, hand out. "Brenda Ashcraft-Oft, president of the Seaview Homeowners Association." I set down my pencil. "Wade Harmon. I bought this place." She smiled, cold, not a crack of real warmth. "Yes, we know. There's confusion about boundaries and beach access. The area your cabin sits in falls within our HOA covenant. It's private property. You need to stop using the beach and remove your construction materials from the common area." That cold feeling, the kind that crawls up your back, hit me right then. My cabin was built in 1943. That's 55 years before your HOA even existed. She just nodded. Property law has evolved. When the HOA was incorporated, we established boundaries that include this coastline. Your deed doesn't supersede our covenant. I pulled the old deed out of my pocket. This says I own parcel 14A, including riparian access and adjacent tidelands. She didn't even look at it. Laws change. The HOA has priority. She handed me a violation notice: construction without a permit vehicle on the access road, trespassing on private beach. You have 72 hours to comply, or we'll take legal action. Our attorney is very good. I'd get one too if I were you. Then she turned on her heel and left. 20 minutes later, the sheriff pulled up Deputy Hollis, name tag gut straining his belt. You Wade Harmon? I nodded. Got a call about trespassing and unpermitted construction. He took a quick look, asked for my permit, which I hadn't gotten yet. Shrugged. I know Brenda. She calls us a lot. He handed me a copy of his report. Look, I'm no land surveyor, but your deed looks fine to me. Still, boundary disputes got to talk to the county. Be careful with that HOA. They don't play fair. After he left, I stood there, violation notice in hand, watching the ocean turn steel gray. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, deeds and paperwork spread out, Googling every term I didn't know. Riparian rights, federal easements, Oregon property law. The more I read, the murkier it got. Property lines weren't always clear, access rights got challenged, and HOAs have more power than you'd think. But the phrase federal easement under the Rivers and Harbors Act, that was the thread. If I could pull it, maybe I could unravel everything Brenda was doing. I barely slept. Next morning, I went to the county office to file for a building permit. Clerk pulled up my parcel, frowned. There's a flag. The HOA filed an objection boundary dispute. Until that's resolved, we can't issue permits. I slapped the deed down, but she just shook her head. Get a lawyer. That evening, I got an email public notice of unauthorized construction and safety concerns sent to 200 residents. Didn't say my name, but anyone who drove by knew who they meant. Suddenly, contractors were backing out, couldn't risk crossing the HOA. Someone posted a photo of my cabin online, called me a trespasser. Strangers piled on, calling me every name in the book. That's when it hit me. Brenda wasn't just fighting me with rules, she was turning the whole community against me. Sitting in that cabin, lights off, ocean pounding the shore, I felt truly alone for the first time since moving in. And I'll tell you, that kind of isolation is a different beast, sharp, cold, suffocating. But the longer I sat, the angrier I got. She thought I'd fold. She had no idea. So I doubled down on the research. Started digging into harassment laws, tortious interference, property rights cases where HOAs got sued and lost. And then I found the magic words federal public trust doctrine, the very thing that could crack her whole scam wide open. If my beach was federal, her claims were nothing but hot air. That night I went hunting for the FAP marker. Midnight boots on, flashlight in hand, I combed the dunes. Didn't find it yet. But I knew it was there somewhere under all that sand and old lies. I made a timeline, logged every threat, every incident, every shady maneuver. Friday morning, someone smashed my window, spray-painted "Go Home Trespasser" in red across my wall. Sheriff came, took a report, but no evidence, no witnesses. That afternoon, some investor tried to buy me out with a blank check, offered 20% over market, said things don't get easier for people who don't fit in. I told him to shove it. He shrugged, left, but not before I got his license plate. That night, I installed cameras, motion lights, and a voice recorder hidden on the porch. Next night, the cameras caught two masked figures, bolt cutters, spray paint, HOA security logo right on their jackets, destroying my work and cutting wires. I saved every frame, every timestamp. Sunday, Brenda came with her board members. I stayed inside, but the recorder picked up their voices, plotting legal action, talking about paying the investor $5,000 to pressure me. It's not about the cabin, Brenda said. It's about control. If we let him win, anyone will challenge us. That was it. I called a lawyer, a woman named Laura Brennan, showed her everything, the deed violation notices, footage, audio, every shred of evidence. She was sharp, no nonsense. You've got harassment, tortious interference, conspiracy in that audio. That's gold. We filed suit, 47 pages, 23 exhibits, asked for damages, fees, an injunction. She got a restraining order against Brenda and the board first round to me. But the real twist, that federal easement. Laura called the National Park Service ranger named Travis, checked the 1961 survey. Turns out the whole stretch was federal public trust land protected for public access. Brenda and the HOA had been charging for access to land they didn't even own. Over $1.2 million collected in fees, every cent now under federal investigation. No A and the U.S. attorney got involved, subpoenas, interviews, records seized, and it all pointed to Brenda. The charges stacked up: conversion of government property, mail, and wire fraud conspiracy. She was looking at real-time 18 to 24 months plus restitution. Laura got a settlement offer, $250,000, and permanent beach access. I turned it down. I want them held accountable, I said. And when the feds arrested Brenda, her in a bathrobe, coffee mug in hand, neighbors filming her getting cuffed and led away, you better believe I watched that clip more than once. The civil trial jury found them liable on every count, $6 or $95,000 to me. HOA forced to dissolve, beach opened up for good. No more gates, no more fees, no more, you don't belong here. The press swarmed. Half the community wanted refunds, others clung to Brenda's lies. A new board took over, no power over the beach anymore. 6 months later, while the lawyers and accountants chewed through the wreckage, I rebuilt my cabin, new roof siding, dock, solar panels. Hung the old deed on the wall next to the survey map that had saved my hide. The new sign I carved for the porch said, "Built 1943, restored 2024. Open cabin, open heart." That summer, families came back to the beach, kids splashing, fishermen setting up rods, an old-timer thanking me for letting him fish there again after decades. One woman apologized for believing Brenda, said she should have asked more questions. I told her, "You trusted someone who was supposed to look out for you. That's not a crime." As the sun set, I sat by the fire, a little girl waving as she walked past with her folks, and I realized power's not something you take, it's something you're given. And when you abuse it, people will take it back, one stubborn question at a time. So yeah, Brenda tried to erase me, but in the end it was a 60-year-old concrete marker and a stubborn old carpenter who brought down an empire built on sand. The ocean didn't care, just kept rolling in steady and endless. But I learned to outlast people who thought they could break me. I came here to disappear and ended up finding my fight. And if you're still watching, tell me, what would you have done if it were you? Ever tangled with an HOA or stood your ground when you knew you were right? Drop a comment, share your story, and hey, hit that like and subscribe if you love a good plot twist. Because sometimes justice looks like an open beach and the sound of the waves rolling in, and sometimes it looks like refusing to leave.